everybody. Max Scoble here, and I'm with Tim of Legend.
Hello.
Tim Schafer from Double
Nice to be
Fine.
here. Thank
and
you.
Off camera, we've got Greg Rice, who is driving. He's pointing and clicking at things. We're with a little game here called Broken Age. This is formerly known as Double Fine Adventure.
Yeah, it's still an adventure.
I heard on the internet that you stole a bunch of money from teenagers to make this game.
I led them astray with promises of pointing and clicking, and got some money to make a game.
You kicked the door down on that whole crowdfunding thing. You were the...
I'd love to take credit for that, but it was kind of an accident. I mean, it was a well thought of plan to make adventure games.
Well, it's awesome because that's one of my founding game genres. It's something I grew up with, and
This is where you talk about how much older I am than you. No, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's fine. And that we went to the same high school. I think
we
that
did.
should come
That's
out.
actually a little.
'Cause that makes this whole thing really.
You actually spoke at my graduation.
I know, that's weird.
Yeah,
and
my
it's
high
weird.
school graduation in 2005.
When you first told me that, I was like, oh, I must have had a really big impact on this young man's life. You're like, I don't remember what you said.
I was playing Zelda on my friend's Game Boy.
Well, that's basically what I was saying in my talk. Was like, you should be playing more video games.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so thanks
for
a
listening. lot. Look where you got me.
Yep. All of this.
Yeah. Well, this is actually really exciting. I've basically seen nothing of this. I've seen a few screenshots, but I mean, I think that if you see too much of an adventure game, it can kind of spoil it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard about the Let's Play videos and stuff because people like just showing screenshots can ruin entire sections of gameplay because the puzzles are all based on secrets.
So I mean, anybody who's watching, kind of
Don't watch
par for the course. There might be some spoilers for this.
We'll try not to have too many though.
Yeah. What's the story with this one? This comes out next Tuesday. Is that right?
Yeah, 28th.
Yeah. And if you
It's
were
out now to backers.
Yeah, if you were if you're a good backer, you're not telling anybody about it because it's a secret.
Too many secrets.
But yeah, let's jump in. What is Broken Age about? All I know about this is that Joel McHale made a stupid joke on the VGX
About how stoned I was.
Oh, you
when
did
I-
a pot.
That's kind of people's reactions whenever you show anything that has ideas in it. It's
Wow.
like, whoa. So this is an adventure game about Vela and Shay, who are two teenagers that are in these really different worlds, obviously, but they have these story similarities where they're both doing similar things in their lives, and so you can switch back and forth between them when you're playing and work through their different stories. However you want to do it. You can play one completely to the end and then play the other, or you can switch back and forth whenever you're stuck in a puzzle, which I think is helpful for adventure
cool.
game players.
So it's like Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly like Grand Theft Auto. I'm glad you saw that right away, in that we have people in it. And if there's a tree, you can't run over with a car. So that's got that similar.
2 out of 10.
All right, Max, you got to pick who we're starting with.
Vela or Shay?
Ladies first.
Oh, that's nice.
So where is she? Is she in?
She is in her own world. This
Okay.
is the world in the town of Sugar Bunting, which was a town that used to be called Steel Bunting. It was full of warriors, and their town was attacked by these monsters on a regular basis, and they decided, after fighting them for years, to just give in and give them a sacrifice every year so that they don't attack the town. And they choose a maiden or a group of maidens, and they let the monster pick which one to eat every year, every 14 years, so it doesn't destroy the town. And this year, Vela has been chosen.
Oh, well,
a
that's
great honor. Yeah. So obviously her story is very short. She's starting to question it. Like, what if we just fought that monster instead of just letting him eat us? Maybe I don't want to just be eaten.
I was getting worried that I chickened out.
This
This
is
is her little sister, and everyone in the town thinks it's great and a great honor for her
What's
to
to
be eaten.
fear?
okay. So kind of a Hunger Games type of thing, but the monster is the one who's going to be eating things and.
Yeah. A little bit like, I think, were you in high school? You have to read The Lottery by Shirley Jackson.
Yeah.
story.
Okay.
But it's this
That'd be
great,
a smarter. Yeah, I'm like, what about that hot tween fiction? It's like that, right? You're like, no, it's like an actual book.
As you said, I'm older.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the art style of Nathan Stapley. He like made the
This
was
is
that-
very,
that was
very
Nathan.
pretty.
They made them all look like sugar canisters. I think it's pretty. That's one of the things that made me want to go back to adventure games. Is that we used to be able to have 2D artists just paint a beautiful painting and then have that usable in the game. In 3D games, that has to go through so many different permutations by the time you're actually seeing it. Hopefully, it still looks good if you have an art team, but it would be nice to just actually be able to see the brush strokes and see the original 2D art that these artists can create.
I am with you 100%. I always
Fix that neck bug. It's still in beta,
Yeah.
so we can still fix bugs.
It is already fixed.
Oh, thank God.
It's just not live.
now this is a little bit
Until I find the ceremony.
just disorienting to me because it's so so seamless between.
Beautiful? Is that what you were saying?
It's so
Beautiful?
pretty, Tim. It's very, but I mean, everything is hand painted. In older adventure games, you'd be like, well, that it's like Scooby Doo. You're like, that trap door is sticking the hell out. Like, I'm gonna click that.
It's kind of a mix because you really do, in some ways, want that in an adventure game because you want them to. You want them to be drawn to the objects that have the most interesting reactions. You don't want them necessarily to be, because the artists will want to paint in a lot of interesting stuff, like a ladder. And Peter Chan would always paint a ladder into rooms, and I was like, that's a ladder. The player should get to go up the ladder, but you can't go up the ladder, so you have to paint out that ladder. So there's always that tug of war. And so you do use art direction to kind of, we'll just put the ladder in the dark, or we'll paint it out, or something. We'll put spotlights on other thing. But the Scooby-Doo thing you're talking about is, often it was the technical limitation of if you want to have something moving on screen, it has to be really pixel, like really low res and really low colors in the old days before you were born. And then the backgrounds could be these really high res things. But I think now we've shown it's really been integrated, and Lee Petty, our art director, has put in a lot of work into doing things like, see, there's a rim light on her that actually changes dynamically with the lighting, like as if it were a 3D model.
Oh my God.
And she's been set into the world with shadows and little touches like that. But the player doesn't need to know any of that. They just need to experience the story, the character, and the puzzles. But it does look pretty.
I'm like I said, I've been pretty much on Media Blackout. I've seen a few screenshots, but this is pretty cool seeing this in action for the first time.
Why was I
What's she trying to do? She's trying to stab the cake? Is that it?
Yeah, she's trying to stab
Catch me,
the
I'm
cake.
not paying attention. You gotta stab the cake? Is the cake a villain?
You're just meeting your family and hearing a little bit from Lavina Clench here about the history of the Maiden's Feast, which is the celebration that Vela has been chosen to participate in.
Okay. And the Mag Chothra is the creature that's gonna eat her? Okay.
Yeah, that's a good you're gonna
I
hear.
want to go beyond
And
the
so you hear a little about the history and the lore, and there's a grandpa there who tells you a little bit of the old days when they used to fight the monsters, and so it was just a chance for you to get to know her family and see a lot of cupcakes, which we wanted you to.
They're so much fun to look at. I'm a big Wayne Thiebaud fan, so I love painted cakes. They're a wonderful thing to look at.
Look for that knife.
And hurry.
Yeah, get the knife.
You won't be selected in your
Stab it in the frosting.
You're trying to find a knife. That's the puzzle too. And here's a grandpa who's going to tell you about.
Beastender?
He's mad. He's mad that everyone became a
Do you know
baker.
where Mom's knife is?
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Once you start feeding virgins to monsters, not much work for a sellsword.
It's hard to go back from
I'm
that
not sure
once
how
you
I
take
feel
that
about
step.
this Maiden's Feast either,
So
to tell you
let's look at the timeline of this. This was, when did the Kickstarter for this
There's
happen?
not really any screen tearing in it. Okay. I can't help but look at the chat and explain things. It's streaming.
Please do look at the chat. And yes, it is definitely just the hobbled mess of stream technologies that we have here.
We have it actually running through a pipe of liquid. It's hard to explain. Okay.
They all have terrible spelling too, and just the worst usernames.
I can't read it. Oh my god, I can't say that word for sure.
What?
But when did the Kickstarter for this go up? That was a year and a half ago? Or
2 years ago, around this
Good
time.
God, okay.
It was around this time of year. It was actually like during the DICE conference,
Okay.
which is usually February 8th or something. And we put it up, and it was really exciting. It was really exciting because it was like we're asking for a little bit of money, and we got a lot more than that. And that's how this became a real game.
By GDC. I remember that was kind of the talk of the.
And it ended up finishing, right at GDC, so we kind of lucked out with a lot of people talking about it.
Under this tub.
And it did change a lot of things, I think, for us and for, just someone who has a project they want to make. The fact that you don't necessarily need to go ask a big company for permission to make it anymore. You can, if you have a good idea, you can get a lot of people just to coordinate and give you the money and make it happen. And hence, adventure games.
Now the thing about Kickstarter is, you got your kind of baseline, your goal, and then of course there's not really cap there. It kind of just keeps going. And as I think back when you guys did it, were there even stretch goals, or was that a thing they'd kind of?
We didn't know anything about stretch goals, but people
Yeah.
started giving us more money, and they're like, now that you got more money, are you going to add translations to other languages? And we're like, I guess we should. So we were kind of like chasing the making up stretch goals after we had been stretched.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a challenge. That can very quickly lead to biting off more than you can chew. But how are you feeling about this? Are you pleased with how it's come along? And
I mean, the real secret of it to me, besides the fact that it changes the power that artists have and lets them come up with creative ideas without asking for permission, is that you don't just get the money from all those backers. You get the big wave of love and support. You get these people who feel personally empowered because they made something happen themselves, and they also are, in our case, because we're making this documentary, are just watching us every step of the way and really feel like they're part of it. And we've taken their suggestions into the game, and whether it's the game's controls or even like one of the locations from the game came from backer suggestions. So it just feels like you have this much tighter community. Like it gave us this real community, even though we had one before. Now it's been just taken like many times more intense.
That's awesome, because I feel like it could just as easily go the other way. And you've got you've got kind of design by committee and a bunch of people who are like, I paid for this game, I want it this way. And
I mean, you get people who say that, like, I gave you guys $15, therefore I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And that's not most of the people. There's just some people who are like that. But I feel like the trust is they gave me, in general, the majority of people gave me the money to make this game. They're counting on me to use whatever judgment I used in making older games that I made, or whatever games, if there's a reason they gave me money, it's like, hopefully they trust some of the judgment calls that I made before. So I can't just say, oh, the backers made me do it. They made me do this thing. I have to take responsibility for it being in there. And I think we made the right call with this game. It's like, I'm really happy that turned out.
it's looking great. And this is broken up into 2 pieces, right?
Yeah. We had, at a certain point, because the game got so overfunded, it changed from being more of a documentary with a little game on the side, which is really what the project was. It was like a game documentary primarily. And then it just flipped around to become, this game budget, which after you take away the rewards and everything, is about $2 million really.
Yeah.
And it was very similar to, say, Stacking or Costume Quest type size. And so, but that's like no more a gimmick or a novelty, it's a real game. And so started designing it and started feeling really, started really getting into it and seeing how beautiful it was looking and how we really liked these characters and the story. And then I designed so much, I was like, I'm gonna have to cut this way down to fit in this $2 million budget. And it looked like we were gonna have to cut it in half. And I was like, I just didn't feel like, even though that would be in some ways fair to do because that's the scope of the game that fits in the budget of the money that we got, I felt like the backers and people were starting to expect a bigger story. Like they were starting to, they wouldn't make excuses for like, well, it's only $2 million, so it's going to be smaller than another game. But
Yeah.
they wouldn't expect that. So we decided to invest our own money in it, and so we pretty much matched what we got from Kickstarter with our own money, and which we didn't have when we started the Kickstarter. But since becoming independent, like self-publishing, we started to make actual money. And so putting that into the game ourselves, and then that still was a little risky because so releasing the first half and putting it up for sale helps us actually kind of make sure that we're going to be, fine all the way into the end to ship this second part of the game later this year.
Did you guys have a plan for the game? Did you go to this completely from scratch?
Completely from scratch.
Okay.
I mean, I was looking back. I often I fill out notebooks full of ideas or just rambling in notebooks,
Yeah.
And sometimes if I have an idea and I don't know what to do with, I'll write in the top margin. So I did go back on the first day after the Kickstarter ended and the cameras were rolling. I opened up my old notebooks and was like, did I have any old ideas? And there was this idea of
I just thought it's like, well, we got $3.5 million, so a guy has a car. I don't know.
I mean, I wanted to document where ideas come from, and because often they come from ideas that you've been kicking around in your head for a long time. In this case, I really wanted to tell the story about, I think it was I was watching King Kong or something, and seeing Fay Wray there, and like, oh, what would I do if I was being tied up like Fay Wray? I would kick that gorilla in the nose,
Yeah.
I'd probably still die, but
Right.
the thought of fighting against when you're being held up for sacrifice was interesting. And then I've always been fascinated with being alone on a spaceship, being taken care of by technology, kind of like in Moon or in Silent Running or the end of 2001. I don't know why I've always liked that setup. And so those are a couple of just old things that are just floating around in my head. And on that first day, I was just talking about the ideas. I thought of this way that they are really similar and kind of fit together well as parallel stories. And that just was like a light bulb going off. And I was like, oh, this all of a sudden just led to a whole bunch of different ideas and just started flowing after that. So sometimes it's just ideas that fit in your head for 15 years. Like Brutal Legend was like, I want to do this. I want to do a demon-based RTS game, and I wanted to do a game about a roadie for a heavy metal band, and just that's gonna be the same story.
That's pretty cool. I write stupid stuff down too, and that's one of the things that I come back to. I'm like, it's not as stupid as I thought it was.
A lot of things seem stupid because you were trying to solve this other problem at
Yeah.
the time. It's like, that's wrong. But then you look at it later and you're like, that's perfect.
Yeah. We got our guy Bill. What's up, Bill?
So we got some questions coming in through chat. Tatami wants to know how the spirits of the development team are now that people are actually getting their hands on the game.
Oh, it's good. I mean, it's been such an exciting ride because like they do get a lot of love from the backers and stuff, and there's been you know a lot of good reviews from the game. Then that's been really great to read. And the interesting thing about the internet is it has all kinds of opinions. I don't know if you noticed that. And you know, even if you put something up, like you put up a show and you get like 20 comments, and if like 19 of them are great and one of them is really nasty, you'll think about that nasty one the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, totally.
So it's funny because the team, I mean, it's the same for all games. You're really exposed to the internet and you can't help but look it up and see. So, but the great thing is that the backers have been really positive about it, and so I think mostly people have this brief moment now where we're just kind of enjoying reading about it and then getting ready to go back in Act 2.
So Private J is asking what you would say to detractors who are saying that this game is too easy to be in the spirit of classic point and click.
I would say there were some people of our own backers who were like, this game is too... I finished this game, and of course people who really play a lot of adventure games are going to be the people who are best at them. And we really wanted to approach this game and revisit adventure games, but also how we would make an adventure game if we had just continued to make adventure games. You know, like after Grim Fandango, if we just made another one and another one. And certain things were a progress of simplifying the interface, for example. Like if you look at Maniac Mansion, had like 15 verbs, and Monkey Island only had 9. Like we could always, and then, you know, Full Throttle had that verb skull with like the 4, you know, and Grim Fandango had essentially like 2 verbs, and even Psychonauts kind of messed with that a little bit. So getting down to an interface like this, which a lot of modern adventure games have, like Mechanarium, where it's more content sensitive. It doesn't have a ton of verbs, but it has inventory items as the verbs and has a more context sensitive cursor. I think it just kind of, that's the progression that we were going for, and also getting rid of some of the puzzles in our old adventure games we thought made sense at the time, but they really don't make much sense. Like if you play Monkey 2, I was playing it again, and I've heard people complain about that monkey wrench puzzle for a long time, but I was playing it again, and I could not see where that monkey wrench puzzle came from. And I was there when we put it in, and it really made sense. We really thought, yeah, people are going to use, I don't want to spoil it, but use a monkey like a wrench. Yeah, that makes sense. And people really get mad about that. But there's also this part when people love something, like adventure games, and there's a thing about it that alienates a lot of people, like a monkey wrench puzzle. But they still love it. They start to love the thing that's bad about it too, because that's what makes it their thing.
Yeah, you're using
it's
a
our
rubber
thing.
chicken as a pulley as a zip line.
Well, that was a good puzzle. It didn't make any sense, but it's hard to tell. I know it's hard to tell the good ones from the bad ones, but
I like it's just being like an architect of Looney Tunes stunts or pranks.
Exactly.
You're like that Acme device is wouldn't work.
But why would it have the? Yeah, that's another thing. Where that device actually did totally make. Of course, it's a rubber chicken, but it would split if you tried to go down the zip line if it didn't have a pulley, right? It would just rip right in half.
Yeah.
So anyway, people love the good and the bad about the thing, and so even if you take out the bad parts, they're like, "What are you doing?" Now it's not this thing that I loved and only I loved.
Yeah.
It doesn't alienate people anymore. Now everybody's gonna like it.
Purists.
It's gonna. I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I feel like there's a lot of like, you should take out the monkey wrench puzzle. All of a sudden, I don't know. So we playtested this game a lot, and we caught some of these puzzles that made sense to us, but were totally counterintuitive to other people. And really did want to have a nice flow to it, because the real thing that adventure games, I would say they emphasize more than any other game is character and story and presentation of these things. So there's like a really immersive, interactive story.
You don't want to stop people from finishing it. You want them to.
Yeah, and a lot of those old adventure games people never finished, especially before there was like walkthroughs on the internet. People just didn't finish them. And every time you even like leave your game to go look at a walkthrough, you're breaking your fantasy world, and so I think that. I know when I talk to people who played Grim Fandango and didn't finish it, I was like, you got stuck on the signpost in the forest, right? And they're like, yeah. And I know if they didn't finish Full Throttle, they got stuck in the junkyard, and I know, or the mine road. And I know all these things because we didn't really have the same method of like kind of testing.
Yeah. This wasn't yours, but the Indiana Jones, The Fate of Atlantis, the Sunstone puzzle. I don't know if my game was broken, but it was, you had to align the world stone and the sunstone and the moonstone.
Yeah, what was I don't even remember the solution to that one.
I had the strategy guide and it still didn't help. They were like, look at Plato's dialogues. I don't, and I went back and tried to do that again like 2 years ago. Admittedly, it was very hungover at E3 and it still didn't work. But anyway.
It's great that you went back and you're like, I'm smarter now.
I'm
going to
grown
do
man. I'm going to do this. And it was humbling.
So we have a question that a lot of people are asking, but especially Philanthropy, who is our resident expert on Let's Plays and live streams. He's dying to know if Grim Fandango HD is a thing that will happen ever.
Well, we don't really have the say on that exactly. We are not the rights holder to Grim Fandango. It's owned by a large company. But there are a lot of people who are interested in playing that game. I would just love to people could play it, period, because like you have to pirate it right now if you want to play it or buy it from
and
eBay.
It's difficult to set up too, I've heard.
There's a great wrapper for it called residualvm.org. Is that right? But there's I think it's actually in the chat. Someone posted that the Scum VMs for the Scum games. Yeah, residualvm.org. He actually fixed a long-standing bug in Grim Fandango that I was really appreciative. There's a whole dialogue to explain the plot of the game. Didn't play for most people, and I didn't know that for like 15 years. It's fixed now. Thanks for playing.
That's actually kind of raises a good question, is what next? Because you guys have, obviously you're going to put out the rest of this, but you've kind of resurrected adventure games here. I mean, Walking Dead helped too, but it's this kind of, it wasn't doing anything, and now it's very, very big and at the forefront of what people are talking about.
There was always a crowd of people who were playing them still, especially in Germany. And there was definitely hardcore adventure players. I think it's just that people are talking about them more in different places where they weren't talking about them before. Like say right here on the couch in Destructor.
On a couch.
Here we are talking about adventure games.
Not in Germany at a desk.
Sure, we might be. People don't know. But should we switch to Shay? Do you guys think we'll switch to Shay? So we, when you're playing the game, after this cutscene, we'll show how easy it is for even someone hungover from E3 to switch.
Well, that's good, but the puzzles might still be a thing.
What was I saying in the middle of that whole thing we're talking about?
The spread of adventure games.
Adventure games. Oh yeah, but I think
what next?
I mean, it was definitely. I think it was great to revisit this because I think there were things that. People often, lament the end of a genre, and I think I've always said that it wasn't like they died. It wasn't. It was just they didn't grow. Like as soon as we first saw Wolfenstein. As soon as we first saw the first shooter, and then saw like consoles take off with the Mario 3, we started to sense that things were about to explode. This is the 90s, I'm talking about. And like things got really big, and our little games industry that we had in the 90s kind of stayed that size. Like adventure games, I don't think they really, they were like 200 to 200,000 people or 500,000 people that would buy adventure games, and there might still be that number, but people have tried different things with them, and I think the Telltale games like Walking Dead and stuff have become a different genre. Like they're kind of branched off. They're not, they're not the same type of game, but they've definitely found a wider audience for sure.
Yeah, that was something that kind of irked me about Walking Dead. Is I think I was expecting it to be much more in the spirit of LucasArts point and clicks, and it was. In fact, kind of more dialogue heavy and more focused on the the conversation and character driven stuff. And I was like, I want to get a candle and then use it to solve a puzzle and do the thing to get the drawer open or whatever. And I'd go around opening all the drawers in that, and there weren't enough odd knickknacks to pick up. And I was so used to that kind of physical component.
Well, I mean, I think they were. I mean, were trying. They had a certain thing where they're going after an audience that came from a TV show that they really liked, and they wanted to. Go for that audience, and ours was, we had this audience of backers who wanted an adventure game. So we had things like dialogue trees and, dragging objects around and mixing objects together and stuff like that adventure games have. But I think modernized and made a little bit like taking away some of those real unintuitive puzzles.
Right. And here's a question. Refresh my memory. Is this coming to touch devices? Was that one of the stretch goals, or is that a?
We said we were going to do iOS.
Okay.
Not right now, but later, I think we'll be on those devices.
Yikes.
That's a big thing. That seems like a no-brainer right out the gate to me. Was that you don't have to point and click. You can just tap.
Well, they are. If you've played like adventure games on a tablet, they really do work really well.
Yeah.
It's just natural for them, and it's like they skipped consoles and.
Yeah.
And I think it's exciting because a lot of people have those devices, whereas in the 90s, not everybody had computers, and the people who had computers, you kept a list of who they were. You knew in town who the freaks with the computers were. But nowadays. Everybody has them. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I think I remember. I think I got Monkey Island from like a Scholastic book catalog or something.
That can't happen.
I don't know.
How did that happen?
I don't. I went to a dumb school, I think, but went to the same high school.
I mean, that's beautiful, man. If we could get into the Scholastic book service,
But I mean, that's the thing is back in the day, I feel like computer games had this almost. It was like, oh, this isn't a video game. Video games are toys. Like those are stupid things. Like Kid Chameleon is dumb. He doesn't promote reading. You know, you get, Maniac Mansion, and this is.
That's funny. That's the way it did. It did feel. That's a lost chapter in video games history. It's like in the '90s, it really felt like it was going in a certain direction. Like computer games are these really sophisticated things, and in some ways, a lot of them are, but like sophisticated, like for smart people. And like games like Archon will come out. You know Archon? You ever play Archon?
No.
Is one of my favorite games from the 90s. Like there's a chessboard, but the characters actually had a fight, and then there would be this changing light and dark, and it affected whether your characters were strong or not.
Ooh.
But it was just like that feeling of like we're gonna make chess like we're gonna make like the chess that really the kings probably wanted to make, but they didn't have the technology now.
Yeah.
There's that feeling of like it was gonna, and then like Mario came out, and like, I think things went in a different direction.
Yeah.
And I love Mario.
What's up, Bill?
So I have to shout out real quick or I'm going to get strangled later, but Philanthropy also wanted me to tell you that he loves you and misses you. I guess you guys had a rendezvous at PAX late at night.
Is that the name that I should know him by?
He's a big bearded man. Big bearded.
Let's narrow this down. He's a big guy with the beard. He has
Okay,
glasses.
big guy with beard and glasses at PAX. That narrows it down to
He's
PAX.
Caucasian.
But the beard looks good, which sets him apart. Also,
He likes video games. I mean, it's one of the nothing. No.
Bob Rock's in the chat. He's asking questions about bagels I don't understand, so I'm just going to ask you to read it.
Bagels are artist.
Okay.
Okay. Wait, which one?
That does make that.
Who was it again?
Bob Rock's.
I recall Tim mentioning in an earlier episode that he wished he could get Bagel in on the concept stage as well, but they didn't have the time, money for it, so a balance had to be found. Did I just forget that being addressed later?
I don't know what they're talking about. Bagel was definitely involved. He was the first artist on the project, and he did a lot of the initial concept
He also
art.
asked something earlier.
So he lives in New York, so we wish we could fly him out more. But
Yeah, so he's asking if you're able to integrate Bagel's design style into the game. Specifically, were you able to get the ideas from him you wanted during the concept stage instead of just having him painting scenes?
oh yeah, like his craziness. Yeah, I think you can see when you play the game that there's some crazy environments and kind of crazy take on things that are definitely the way Bagel sees things. And even Act 2 stuff we've been planning is just a little bit more even more crazy.
No, I've totally been spacing out. Well, he's been spacing out too. He's in space. What's going on with
Nice.
this gentleman in space?
This is Shay, who is being raised on this spaceship all by himself in the middle of space, where he's being taken care of by this mothering kind of face here, who wants to keep him safe above all else. So it kind of entertains him. And he goes on these missions, and you can see he's got the controls to the ship, but they're kind of maybe fake. They're like it's like kind of more like it was meant for him when he was younger, like to keep him safe and entertained, and all of the things. He's just starting to feel like all these adventures he's going on, maybe they're fake, and maybe this is not really, maybe I'm not a kid anymore. He's starting to be a little more, like you can see he's kind of bored with it all. And so that's how the game starts, is you figuring out how to get out of this routine and get real control of the ship and take it on actual adventures in the world.
Which adventure would you like to go on, Max?
Oof. Let's go investigate that foreign body. Check out those romance options. Like Mass Effect, am I right? Yeah.
Exactly. Wait, what? That is Jennifer Hale from Mass Effect.
Is it really?
Yeah.
no way.
She played the female shepherd.
Oh yeah. No, I know. I
She's
know
good.
Jennifer Hale. I know her from her work in Real Adventures
lot
of
of
Johnny
things.
Quest.
She's amazing. I knew she could do almost any role, but this is a real different kind of role because it was like a soft, gentle, mothering voice, but she nailed it.
She's a sweetheart. Actually, I interviewed her at PAX Prime a few years ago, and she is a mother, and she had her daughter with her, or kid or baby of some sort of unformed adult. And it was funny because there were Mass Effect cosplayers just walking right by and not even knowing. And I was like, "Is that weird for you?" And she's like, "They're having fun. They're having a good time there."
Yeah, she's great. Yes, there's some really touching things I think when she's talking about, she's calling out to Shay as in her mothering voice that I felt really showed some understanding.
That's a nice change from having, Hal or Ian Holm in Alien or.
Mean robots?
Yeah, I mean, like it's always kind of this sort of like a creepy butler in space. I feel like it's having the mothering figure is.
Yeah, having this mom who's taking probably a little bit too good a care of you, you know. And
Other voices?
yeah, and this is I don't know if you noticed, but it's Elijah Wood. Elijah Wood
Oh, wow.
playing Shay. You really have kept up.
No, it's
media
been,
this thing. That's
well, I
great.
didn't back it, so I don't get your secrets.
No, like in 2000, I remember reading this Entertainment Weekly, and Elijah Wood was being interviewed, and they're like, "What's your favorite video game?" And he's like, "Monkey Island," and I was like, "I will get him someday." He was a really big adventure game player, and then he tweeted about our Kickstarter, and I was like, "There's your fatal mistake." Now I tweeted at him. And it was asked him if he wanted to be involved in the project, and he said yes, and it was great because he loves adventure games and he knows all about them. He understood the script, and we're explaining like, we're going to use a bunch of objects and a bunch of different objects
so
here.
cool.
And he just got it right away, and he's super into it and nice guy, and does an amazing job with Shay because his whole thing here of being kind of bored could easily have turned into kind of like an unlikable teenager who's like really over it, like unsympathetic. But he reads it with so much heart that you can't help but like Shay, I think.
That's great. You've got Elijah Wood, Jennifer Hale. Who else is doing voices? In
Jack
this?
Black came back. To do
Aw.
the voice. It's great because I love Jack, and he's such a great actor that he could do this crazy cult leader that we have up in the clouds. And I think you saw him a little bit when we were playing. And also Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time.
Oh yeah.
Did the voice in this game because I love Adventure Time. And also from Adventure Time, Princess Bubblegum, Hynden Walsh does the character. And we got some old friends of ours who worked on previous games like Richard Horowitz, who did Raz, and he plays two characters in this, and Nikki Rapp and Jenny Westcott, who have been, like she was Lily and the Den Mother from Psychonauts.
Cool.
And David Tentacle, and also some new people like Masasa Moyo, who did the voice of Vela, who we've never worked with before, and David Kaufman, who does Merrick, who turned out to be great. So it's a mix of
It's cool. So it's gonna be some
great
it's gonna
actors.
be name that voice kind of stuff for people playing some familiar.
I mean, I
voices
think I think for some people they don't even notice that there's because we really picked them based on obviously not the fact they're famous, but the fact they're really talented
Right.
actors, and they just kind of disappear into these roles.
And you did total like the whole facial mocap thing to really just get the real.
They were covered in ping pong
Yeah,
balls.
just- that's really-
I think
that's
Jack
really-
Black is still pulling ping pong balls off.
How you get
of his
you
face.
get the tiny ones for the face and the big ones.
Because our animators can't animate. They just they're like put more ping pong balls on the actors because we don't know how to move their faces
Yeah.
around.
Get some ping pong balls and a horse and a dog. That's how you get the real emotions.
A horse and because people don't look like people on film. You gotta get a dog to.
No, because they actually have been doing that for video games. They glued ping pong balls to a horse for Call of Duty.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's for your next Kickstarter. You can try and raise a lot of money and just you get to the Call of Duty money, you get ping pong balls on any kinds of
It's
farm
weird because
animals.
with that money, you think they could just hire a talented animator who could really.
No, they want the people to make realistic horses.
People get mad when they do like that horse looks like it was crafted by an artist. I would like to see a real horse when I then shoot it. Takes all the joy out of shooting a horse if you can't see the ping pong balls.
So Brian Van Bruggen in chat is asking if you've ever been in a real life adventure, Tim.
A real life adventure?
Yeah.
Every
you ever had to combine
day.
items to get through a sticky situation.
I'm trying to think of when I've ever MacGyvered together an object to solve a puzzle in my own life. Probably, if I think about it, mostly doing home repairs. Probably not. a
I
very
would
exciting
I would
story.
love to see the cinema verite of adventure games. Just do a adventure game about the aftermath of Kickstarter and the process of getting this game made. Just you go
Well,
on a daily
it's called the
basis.
Double Fine Adventure documentary, which you haven't been watching, but the backers can watch on our website.
Is that going to be available in like a big, lovely package?
Yeah,
on
I
Blu-ray
think we're
or
going to release it
And
on
that's
Blu-ray.
The guys who did Indie Game the movie.
No, these are the guys who did Minecraft: The Story of Mojang,
Okay.
and the chiptune documentary called Retune the Planet. Wait, did I get that? Not Retune, Reformat the Planet. But the documentary has been amazing, and it's just I thought that having them in the office would be really crazy and strange. And it is a little bit, but you get used to it. And it was all part of our dream of showing how actually games get made.
That's really neat because so often you get these kind of promotional developer diaries.
Yeah.
Or you'll get postmortems where it's all kind of after the fact, and it's like, oh yeah, we have some concept art, but you don't get to see what it's like.
Yeah, but and that's why we kickstarted it that's why we kickstarted the game, because at first we were going to kickstart the documentary about just us making a game, but I knew if we were trying to get a publisher's permission to like, hey, can we show this meeting where we cut a bunch of stuff, and they'd be like, well, that seems kind of negative. Like you don't want to cut stuff, people will get mad. But I wanted to show everything, so we had to have the game be totally independent too. What was the favorite game of 2013? Earthbound? Can I say that? I actually played a ton of Earthbound this year because I finally got it on my Wii U. But
Nice.
also, I've been enjoying Super Mario 3D Land.
World.
World? Was Land on the DS?
It's 3D World.
Someone's saying I'm out of it. I'm enamored by Tim Schafer.
You're out of it? Okay, you're laying back on the couch? You're basically Shay?
You're
just role-playing Shay
It's a
from
leather
the-
couch. It's slippery.
You're trying not to look taller than me.
So we were talking about this beforehand. The special effects and practical effects in movies, and how there was stuff you don't understand how it works, and something that's kind of lost in the age of CG, and I guess on a sort of similar level with games, is that you're not going to have someone going down to the fish market to get oyster parts to make a realistic alien. It's going to be on some level people are painting things, and it's there's a certain kind of structure to making a game, which is what I'm curious about with this documentary. But would you say you guys have a stranger process at Double Fine, or a more out there, or
I mean, it's the only process I know, so it's hard to tell how strange it is, but it's a small group, a small crew, and it's definitely handcrafted. Like every moment someone is kind of hand making it for you. So I think in the documentary it shows like how much each member of the team cares about what they're doing. And we have a talking spoon.
Everyone should have one of those.
Yeah, I don't know how games get by without a talking spoon. He solves so many problems for us. Like, look, how else do you get rid of all that ice cream?
Oh man,
I'm getting close to where I'm going to have to start solving puzzles.
And that will ruin it.
So how? It's hard to kind of quantify the length of an adventure game, because some people are really good at them.
Yeah. I mean, this first act is probably about 4 hours, and then altogether it'll be about 8 or 8 to 10, depending on how you're playing it.
That's a reasonable amount of time.
I think the really fast people could probably get it through in 3 hours.
Yeah.
But an average human, probably
Yeah.
4.
What's the time frame on the second one?
I would like to get it done by, I don't want to say officially, because I think we're officially not saying, but the first half took 2 years, and it's not going to take 2 years for sure. It's definitely going to
That's
be
good.
out this year,
Yeah.
hopefully somewhere around the late summer.
And this is currently Mac and PC, and
The build that the backers have now is PC, Mac, and Linux.
okay. And then what else is it coming to?
And then later on, it will be on iOS and Android and Ouya, and then who knows, everywhere.
Sticking it to those poor downtrodden console gamers.
Well, when we started the Kickstarter, it could only be on platforms that you could self-publish on, because we were self-publishing it. You know what I mean? And since then, it seems like a lot of those big companies have come around to realizing
Oh yeah.
people want to self-publish their games, and
Yeah.
so there's nothing keeping us from being on there. But it will definitely, the console it'll be on first is Ouya, because they're the most open back then too, and they came from Kickstarter,
Tim, you wanna
as
talk
do all
about-
good things.
I just switched on the retro stuff.
Yes, I saw this.
You
briefly.
did? It's hard to tell this far away. Oh, there you go. That was a little thing. Our lead programmer, Oliver actually worked on the special edition version of Monkey Island, where you could change from the retro graphics to the modern graphics on the fly. And so he threw this in on the weekend, and it just worked. Where he just kind of puts it in VGA mode.
I love it. I mean, I love the hand painted, gorgeous visuals, but just seeing they look like Legos, They look like little toys. I feel like
It tweaks the small child inside.
yeah, just sticking your finger in the nostalgia veins or
Stick
whatever.
your finger in the nostalgia vein.
Yep,
I hope that's
stick it-
it.
yeah, that's a thing.
Headline for your review.
Yeah, well,
Tim sticks his finger in our nostalgia vein.
I am at a broken age. It's that quarter life crisis.
So we've got some more questions. Mikey Warrior wants to know who you would cast as Guybrush in a live-action Monkey Island movie.
Well, that's tough.